Do you believe that God wants you healthy? Then join me, Sersie Blue and Gigi Carter on the Healthy for My Purpose podcast, where we help you realize the relationship between your health and your purpose. We share how eating like Daniel can revolutionize your life. Through discussions and interviews, we challenge you to discover the powerful connection between plant-based nutrition, your body, and your faith. It's time. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy for My Purpose. My name is Sersie, and today we are going to be diving into a topic that is going to challenge you and encourage you on your health journey. It's entitled The Power of a Made Up Mind. So many of us struggle, with inconsistency when it comes to our health journey. There's so many times that we kind of start off strong, but when challenges arise or hiccups come along the way, we find that we start to waver, right? And so today we are going to unpack how having a made-up mind is the key to see lasting transformation in your health. And to illustrate this, we're going to turn to one of the most powerful scriptures, the story of the woman with the issue of blood. And we're going to use her story as the foundation to kind of frame what does a made-up mind look like when it comes to our health journey, and how can we pull from the gems from this story and apply it to our health journey. But before we do that, I want us to jump into Romans 12, verse 2, and it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Listen, guys, a committed mind begins with a renewed mind. I'm going to say that again. A committed mind starts with a renewed mind. So before we can see change in our health, we must first check our thoughts. We must first check, how do I see myself? How do I frame my health journey? Right? And if we continue to hold on to negative beliefs around our ability to be healthy, we will continue to struggle to fully commit to the process. Right? Because our thoughts directly relate to how we commit. And so by renewing our minds and aligning our thoughts with God's truth, we are actually laying a foundation for true transformation. And so many of us can attest to the fact that we struggle with inconsistency. You might start off strong. I know we're in the month of February and we're getting closer and closer to the time where most people kind of fall off of the wagon. But many of us struggle with inconsistency when it comes to our health. And so one of the things that we really have to kind of frame up, as we're going to start to look into this story with the woman in the well, is that sometimes this yo-yo dieting and this, starting and stopping, or, failing and getting back up, all of this can sometimes create desperation, right? You can get to the point where you're like, listen, I've been trying this for so long, and I kind of feel desperate because I never have been able to master the consistency. I've never been able to make this a lifestyle. And so desperation, I want to tell you, can actually be a tool, because desperation could actually lead to decision. And that's our first point for today for this podcast. And so we're going to kind of look at this story of the woman with the issue of blood. And we go to Mark 5:25 to 28. And it says, "And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet, instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. And so this woman had been suffering for 12 long years, and she had tried everything the world could offer. She's been to every specialist and every doctor, but nothing worked. And finally, she made up her mind in that moment that if I could just touch the hem of Jesus's garment, that I would be healed. This was a decision that she made out of desperation, but in a moment, that if I could just touch Jesus, I would be healed. And so she didn't waver, she didn't second guess, and she acted in faith. So I want to talk about how does that apply to us having a made up mind in our own health journey. The same principle applies to our health. If we are always waiting for this perfect circumstance, right? If we're always waiting for this perfect timing for us to say, yes, I'm going to commit now, we will never start. You know, there's always this thing where I'm going to wait till next Monday, or I'm going to wait until after the wedding, or I'm going to wait until after Christmas or Thanksgiving or Valentine's Day. And we're always looking for this appointed time. But like the woman in the story, we have to push past the obstacles, we have to push past the doubts, and we have to push past the past failures. And we have to push even past our own self-sabotage that allows us to kind of keep moving the mark. Well, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. And so we have to ask ourselves, have I truly made up my mind to honor God with my body? Or am I still waiting for the perfect time to begin? Because you see, that's something that happens up here in our mental state. That's something that we have to decide if we're really going to commit. You know, if you're a follower of Healthy for My Purpose, you've probably heard us say this a million times, that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we should honor that in how we eat and how we move and just how we take care of ourselves. But we have to, at some point, make that decision that, am I going to honor God with my body, or am I still waiting for the perfect time to commit? Right? Because it's going to take not just the knowledge, but it's going to take us putting our faith into action. So while we might believe that principle or that value intellectually, there has to be a point where we actually move it into action. And so the woman didn't believe that she could be healed intellectually. She acted on that belief. And so she pushed through the crowd despite being weak, despite being sick, and she reached out for Jesus. And so we can all have the knowledge, all of the knowledge in the world, right? You could read every scientific book, and you could eat healthy, about how to eat healthy and how to take care of your body. But if you don't take action, nothing changes. Right? Because let's face it, 90% of this health journey is going to be getting the facts, getting the knowledge, getting the how to, getting the what do I need to do? What do I need to eat? How do I need to eat? When do I need to get up? How do I need to exercise? 90%, I would say, is gathering the information. But here's the thing, that 10% or that 10% that's left over is going to be your courage to take action. And that is what is going to make or break your health journey. So you can accumulate all the knowledge, but if you don't activate that 10% of actually having the courage to take consistent action, then all of the knowledge is null effect, right? And so what are some steps that we can use to actually act on our faith? And I think one of those things is setting clear faith-driven health goals. Really coming down and writing down, Lord, what is it that you're calling me to do in this moment? I have all this knowledge, but what exactly is the goal? Is it getting up at 7 a.m. and going to the gym? Is it meal prepping whole food, plant-based meals that are going to edify my body? Is it, I'm going to start off with doing the Daniel fast for 30 days, and then I'm going to transition into a lifestyle? You have to set clear faith-driven health goals. It starts there. The second step to act on your faith is start small, but stay consistent. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves by trying to do everything at once. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that works. Sometimes you could just start exercising. You could do the Daniel fast. You could start intermittent fasting. You could throw every health thing right into the same thing. And for some people, that might work. But sometimes you just need to start small. Maybe you just, Gigi and I always say, start with doing the Daniel fast. Give yourself that 21 to 30 days and start there. And if you're someone that's not moving or not exercising, just phase things in. And so starting small, but staying consistent is another way. Another way to step or act on your faith is to seek guidance and support in your health journey. Coming onto platforms like this, joining our weight loss masterclass, joining our private Facebook group, Healthy for My Purpose, Daniel Fast, A Bridge to Healthy Living, staying connected, listening to the podcast, getting into community. These are ways that you can start to activate your faith and to take action, right? Another way, we started off this whole podcast with talking about this idea of renewing of the mind, because a lot of our actions are actually going to start in the mind. So replacing our negative thoughts with scriptures and affirmation is a way to also activate you to act on your faith, right? And of course, praying for strength and leaning on God's power, not just relying on your willpower. Because I think that's the distinction. I think sometimes we think acting on faith means that we are using our willpower to do everything, that we are mustering up strength to do something. But in actual fact, a lot of times when we step out on faith for our health, we are actually co-laboring and utilizing the Holy Spirit to give us the power to act on our faith. And so I want you to ask yourself, am I just thinking about being healthy? Or am I actually taking steps towards it? Because I know sometimes when you're thinking about it and you're reading about it and you're listening about it, that it could kind of seem like you're doing it, right? But you have to kind of honestly reflect, am I actually just thinking about this? Or am I actually taking steps towards getting healthy, right? And I always like to say, I said earlier that desperation can lead to decision, but a committed mind also comes from being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because I think a lot of times when we're comfortable, when we're not fed up yet, when things haven't disturbed our lifestyle enough, sometimes that doesn't cause us to act, right? And so a committed mind is often born from reaching a breaking point, right? Of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we definitely can relate this to the woman with the issue of blood, because she had reached her limit, right? She had exhausted all of her options, and she was at this desperation point that led her to this firm, unwavering decision to push through the crowd despite what was going on, despite the resistance and everyone going all over the place. She just mustered up this faith that she was going to touch Jesus. And I think likewise in our health journey, we have to get to a point where we are fed up, where we are sick of the status quo, where we are sick of chasing fad diets and trying this and trying that and being on medication and gaining the weights and just not feeling ourselves and not having energy. We have to get to the point where we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, so that we create and cultivate this environment of being ready to embrace lasting change. And sometimes it takes us to get to that breaking point before we are actually ready. And so pushing past the crowd was hard and uncomfortable for this woman, but she developed a new relationship with pain and discomfort. So she was able to keep going. And I want to tell you this, when it comes to our health journey and actually taking action, real action in our lives, we have to get a new relationship with pain and discomfort. Because a lot of times the reason why we don't act, the reason why we don't take the next step, the reason why we don't change our diet and get up and go to the gym and do all of this is because we love to be comfortable. We don't want to feel the resistance. We don't want to feel the pain of what it causes to do these things, right? And so this is the same mindset that we have to adopt in our health journeys, that we have to develop a new relationship with discomfort, with pain, with newness, all of those things, so that we can push back past things and start embracing the discomfort of change and not giving up when challenges arise. I can't tell you how many people we have counseled in this space that the first sign of resistance is what set them back, because they didn't factor in that change comes with pain, change comes with discomfort, change comes with being out of your comfort zone. And so if you don't develop this healthy relationship with being uncomfortable, then it is going to be hard to really change in your health journey. Because sometimes uncomfortability could look like eating foods that you never tried, or eating foods that you don't like, or adapting your routine where you're getting up early in the morning to exercise, or you're giving up foods that once made you have comfort in them. And so if you don't start to develop that healthy relationship with being uncomfortable, it will block you from making sustainable change with your health. Right? And so how we can apply this is that we have to acknowledge when we've reached our breaking point and use that to fuel our commitment. So sometimes a breaking point is not a bad thing, because sometimes it's actually what we need to actually take action. And so acknowledging when we're at it and using it as fuel is one way. Another thing is stop chasing quick fixes and commit to long-term transformation. A made-up mind is one that will surrender the easy route, surrender this idea that I'm going to just do something for 10 days, a fast cleanse, and hope that everything will be transformed, but be willing to say, I'm signing up for the process. And I know I'm not going to lose weight and get off my medications and and have this wonderful routine all in 5 days. It's committing and having that made up mind to the process of this. And like I said before, getting comfortable with the discomfort. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. I'm going to say that again. Getting comfortable with discomfort. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Right? And so when obstacles arise, we have to remember, why did we start this in the first place and push through? I am envisioning this woman who is pushing through the crowd, and people are pushing back against her, maybe even pulling her clothes or her hair. And in her mind, she is just reminiscing why she is pushing through that crowd. And she's like, if I could just touch him, I would be healed. And she's keeping her why, I think, in the forefront of her mind, so that when the pushback happens, or someone's pulling her or pushing her to the side or giving her resistance, or it feels difficult to kind of push through this crowd, she is committed because she's remembering her why. Because just like the woman at the well, we have to touch Jesus in our health journey, right? Because when the woman with the issue of blood touched Jesus, she received the power to change and be healed. So her act of faith, not just about seeking the physical healing, but about surrendering her struggle to Jesus. In that same way, when we invite Jesus into our health journey, when we invite him into our most vulnerable spaces, it's those times where we're lonely, or we're frustrated, or we're angry, and we're like, God, I know that if I eat these things, it's going to give me this temporary satisfaction, and I don't know how to meet my needs other way. It's inviting him into those vulnerable spaces. in our struggles with our health, right? When we position ourselves, that's when we end up positioning ourselves for true transformation, right? It's in our vulnerability. It's in inviting God into those spaces. And so for so often, I think, we invite God into every other space of our lives when it comes to our struggles. But for some reason, we try to manage our health on our own. We feel like we got to knuckle this thing through, or we got to use willpower. But if we would just reach out and touch Jesus, if we would just touch the hem of his garment and allow him to be fully present in our health journey, he will give us the strength to commit, have a made up mind, and follow through. And so I think what we could have learned from this idea of inviting God into our health journey, touching Jesus in our health journey, is that we have to kind of give up this idea that we have to do this alone. Right? That our health journey is about our willpower. It's about our testing, pulling up our bootstraps and just willing ourselves through this. When in actual fact, it isn't. It is about inviting God into that space so that you could utilize his strength to have this made up mind. And another thing, it's also about surrendering your struggles, just like the woman at the well. I think not the woman at the well, sorry, the woman with the issue of blood, I feel that she had to get to this point where she surrendered her struggles. Everything she's been through for the 12 years, there was that point, that point when she saw Jesus, that she had to surrender it, and that she had to believe that Jesus's power was able to sustain her. And I think it's the same with us when it comes to our health journey. We have to surrender the struggles that we have and believe that God's power is enough to sustain us, right? And so by doing this, we're letting his strength replace our willpower, right? I'm going to say that again, because I think willpower is overrated in this space. And as a believer, we can utilize the Holy Spirit. And so we're letting God's strength replace our willpower, which will eventually guide us to long-term commitment, right? And so a lot of times, I can't remember, we were in one of our meetings and someone said, I'm at a place now where I'm no longer allowing my past failures when it comes to my health block me from getting healthy, and when she said that, I was like, wow, that is a light bulb moment, because a lot of times we are so discouraged, right? We've tried so many diets, we've failed, we've lost this pounds, we've gained it back, we've tried this pill, we did this, we did that, and it's just been a cycle of failure, and it can actually hinder us deciding to have a made up mind. And so I want to talk about using your past as leverage, because this woman with the issue of blood did not allow 12 years of failure to discourage her. Think about that. She had 12 years of going from doctor to doctor, pleading, doing this, doing that. But in that moment, she did not allow those 12 years of past failures to discourage her. Instead, she used it to fuel and solidify her decision to push through that crowd. And so even though she tried everything, in that moment, she allowed everything that she'd been through to actually become her motivation she needed to push through the crowd and touch Jesus. And so I think we too can use our past disappointments, right? Our failed diets, our broken exercise routines, our moments of discouragement, not to foster guilt and condemnation, but as reminders of why we need to push forward, as reminders as why we need a made up mind when it comes to our health, right? The fact that we hadn't reached our goals should not deter us, but rather it should push us to commit with even greater determination. So what am I saying? I'm saying that instead of using our past failures to make us fall into shame and guilt and condemnation or self-doubt that this is never going to happen, I'm asking you to reframe your 12 years, reframe those diets that didn't work, reframe it and use it as a fuel to say, you know what, that didn't work, but I'm still going to push through and have a made up mind, because if I could touch the hem of his garment, I know I could be healed. That's a mindset. That idea of her saying, I'm going to push through, that's a made up mindset. And so we have to reflect on past attempts and learn from them, right? We could reframe some of the struggles that we've been through in the past. You know, I tried these diets, but you know what I learned? I learned that Rome wasn't built in a day. I learned that these quick fixes doesn't really lead to long-term change. That's a learning experience. I learned that unless I address my emotional eating, I'm not really going to be able to change my relationship with food, even though I failed in that area. That's a learning experience. So we can look back and reflect on our past attempts and learn from them. We could use past failures as evidence that it's time to truly commit. This is part of the sick and tired of being sick and tired. We can look back at the fact that, listen, over these 12 years, you know, I've been on these medications. I've gained weight every year. If not now, then when? I need a made up mind now more than I ever have. So we can reframe that experience to actually, you know, fuel the fact that we need to have a made up mind now, because we don't want to continue another 12 years or another 5 years or whatever it may be, right? So it's letting our frustration fuel our faith and drive us to action. Because when the woman touched Jesus, she immediately felt power leave him. I'm going to read this. And he turned to her and said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." So her healing wasn't accidental. It was a direct result of her faith and her determination. And I'm here to tell you that your healing, you're getting off medication, you're losing the weight is not going to be by accident. You're not going to stumble into 20-pound weight loss. You're not going to stumble in to getting off medications for the past 10 years. It is going to take a made up mind and action on your part. You know, and this leads me into the other point of sometimes what can kind of get in our way of having a made up mind is that we have to almost shed our old identity, right? Because think about the woman with the issue of blood. Not only did she push past the crowd, but she also pushed past her identity as the woman with the issue of blood. Because you have to remember, she wasn't allowed to go to gatherings. She wasn't allowed to fellowship with everyone. She wasn't allowed in the temple. She wasn't allowed to do what everyone else was doing. Do you not think that she had developed an identity as the woman with the issue of blood? But in that moment, she had to push past that identity to develop that made up mind, right? So in that moment, she refused to be defined by her condition any longer. Because if she had said, well, I'm the woman with the issue of blood, remember, nobody wants to touch me, I can't be in crowds, that limiting belief right there would have prevented her from pushing through the crowd and touching the hem of his garment. And for many of us, our limiting beliefs of I'll never get off the medication, I'm always going to be a diabetic, my mom was a diabetic, I'm never going to lose this weight, I hate the way I look. All of these limiting beliefs are actually stopping you from pushing forward in the crowd for your health. And so we have to let go of the identity that we have attached to our struggles when it comes to our health journey. This idea that I'm a diabetic, I am overweight, I am, and we're attaching this to who we are, right? And we're saying things that I am unhealthy. And so when we stop claiming these identities, we free ourselves to walk into a new reality of health and healing. And so by dropping these titles, we commit to overcoming them because they're not who we truly are. You know, Gigi talks a lot about this. I think she talks about it in the boot camp where she says, you know, you're wearing a watch. You know, I wish I had, well, I'm wearing this ring, right? Now, this ring is just a ring that I'm wearing, right? But I could take it off and put it back on. It's not who I am. And for many of us, we have made our health struggles who we are. And I want to affirm to you today, and I want to encourage you today to stop identifying with your health struggles. It's not who you are, right? And so once you start doing that, you'll feel this freedom that when it's not who you are more likely to believe that you can transform it. Because let's face it, I can't change the color of my skin. I can't change my height. I can't change the texture of my hair. I can't change essentially who I am, right? And so when we have this limiting belief that our health struggles are who we are, it actually is a block for change. And so we have to stop speaking labels over ourselves that do not align with the health that we are trying to claim for our lives, right? So if you are trying to claim that you are going to overcome diabetes or you're going to overcome whatever it may be, we have to stop labeling and identifying ourselves as that. And so we have to start affirming our new identity and saying things like, I am healthy, I am strong, I am committed, I do have a made up mind, I do believe my body is the temple of God, and I will honor it with food, and I will honor it with how I move, etc. Right? And so walking in that mindset of someone who is already healed and thriving is actually going to help you act on the very thing, right? And so that is a big one that I feel that so many of us have already given up and not even known it and not even know it because we've just believed that this can't change, that this is my destiny. I'm going to have this for life. There's no way that I could give up this food or that food. And we've boxed ourselves in, but a committed mind is going to take letting go of those identities. But it's also going to take, and this is my next point, it's also going to take letting go of fear and anxiety. Because I can imagine the woman with the issue of blood, how she had to push past her past failures, her insecurities, the fact that she was ostracized, and she had to be willing to embrace a new beginning. She had to do that. And so I think this is the same with us on our own health journey, that many of us have experienced failures. I know I did. I tried many diets, or even just the failures with relationship with food, using food for emotional needs and things like that. But we too much push past our fear and our anxiety, right? And that is part of laying the foundation to truly commit and have a made up mind, is that we have to renew our faith, believe that change is possible, and try again. I don't know how many times I've talked and spoken to people that just feel like they don't want to try again. Like, I don't want to try another diet. I don't want to try another exercise routine or whatever it may be. And they've just actually given up. Right. And I want to tell you that your past doesn't define you. And in this moment, like the woman with the issue of blood, you can decide through the power of God that I am going to have a made up mind, that I am going to act on my faith, that I'm going to let go of the fear of failure and past struggles and push for a future of success when it comes to my health, right? And I'm going to also renew my faith in the process. Why? Because this time I'm coming to my health journey with God in it. I think many times before, remember, we were using our willpower. We were trusting in fad diets and gimmicks and things that weren't really serving us, that were short-sighted and short-lived. But now, if you decide to invite God into your space and reframe why you're even getting healthy in the first place, you know, many of us, we were trying to get healthy because we wanted to fit into an outfit, or we wanted to go to a friend's wedding, or we wanted to look a certain way. But if you have the revelation that we are getting healthy for our divine purpose, that we are getting healthy to honor God, then that kind of renews your mindset and your purpose, right? And most of all, you have to be willing to try again. You have to be willing to try again. So I don't know, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you're someone who's like, you know what, I've already fallen off the wagon. It's only February. I don't feel like trying again. Yeah, what you're saying sounds good. I'm telling you, the key to the long-term change is you have to be willing to try again. You have to be willing to get back up. You have to be willing to say, God, I slipped up here. I've been using my willpower. I'm still addicted to the food, whatever it is. But you have to be willing to try again. And part of that is making that decision. Like the woman with the issue of blood, she had to make that decision. Jesus was passing by. Do I push forward? Do I have this made up mind and go for change, or do I let him pass by? Right? And so many of you, that I feel is the crossword that many of you are at. Do I actually say, I'm going to commit to my health journey this time? I'm going to start the Daniel fast again, right? I'm going to go in all this time. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to add this and add that, but I'm going to restart the Daniel fast, and I'm going to go ahead and start to transition to a healthy, whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Because the question that is at hand for many of you, and I think this is the question that this woman with the issue of blood carried for so many years. The question was, how long will you struggle? How long will this go on? Right? How many years are you going to battle with diabetes? How many years are you going to battle with losing weight or high blood pressure? How many years are you going to struggle? Right? And for many of us, it's been 12 years, it's been 5 years, it's been 15 years, maybe it's been 20 years. But just like the woman with the issue of blood, there has to be a point where we are going to have to honestly ask ourselves, how long will I struggle? Because no matter how long it is, a committed mind is the answer to your breakthrough, right? And just like this woman had been suffering for years, but it was when she had that made up mind and she decided to push through the crowd, she found her healing. And I'm telling you, the other side of your diabetes healing, or your high blood pressure healing, or your weight loss is going to be on the other side of your made up mind. The other side of you willing to commit that you're not going to give up when you get uncomfortable. You're not going to get up when an obstacle arises, but you're going to say, no, I am committed to this long term. And many of us give up too soon because we are conditioned for fad diets, right? We're conditioned to the 21-day this, the 15-day this. And so we don't have the stamina for the 2 months, the 3 months, the 6 months, the year, the 2 years, because we've conditioned ourselves for these short-term fixes. But what I'm saying is that the made up mind, the moment you commit wholeheartedly to your health, that is where the transformation begins. And so I want to say to you, do not let another day, do not let another month, do not let another week, do not let another year pass you by in the same patterns. Right? Today can be the day that you press forward through that crowd and claim your healing. But it's going to take a decision, a momentary decision that I am going to have a made up mind. And so that is what this podcast is about today. Are you willing? Are you willing to decide? Because it's a decision. Like I said, with the woman with the issue of blood, she had a moment in a twinkling of an eye, right then and there, that she had to decide, am I going to have a made up mind and push past my failures, push past all of the things that I had thought would happen, push past my doubts, push past my fears, push past everything, and have a made up mind and go for what I want. And that is what it's going to take for many of us to do when it comes to our health. And so what's the takeaway today? The takeaway is that the power of a made up mind changes everything. I'm going to say that again. The power of a made up mind changes everything. When you decide, when you truly decide to commit to your health journey as an act of worship, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. Not the cravings, not the discouragement, not even the failure. Nothing can stop you. When you start to align your goals with your health being an act of worship, a surrender to God, of inviting him into that space, nothing can stop you. Because when we take a firm stand for our health, here's what happened. God will meet us in our efforts. Jesus said, somebody touched me. Somebody touched me. I felt the power leave from me. God will meet our efforts. He met the woman when she pushed through that crowd, when she had to give up all of the labels that they had placed on her and step out of herself. And she touched him, and he met her in her efforts. He will give us strength, guys. When you feel weak, when you feel that I don't think I could do this, I don't think I could give up these foods, I don't have the energy, I don't have the strength, he will give you strength when you feel weak, and he will bless you for your obedience, right? And so in closing, I want to just throw out a few gems on how to develop a determination and a made-up mind in your health journey as we close. You know, one of the biggest ones, and Gigi and I talk a lot about this, you know, and this is why we have Healthy for My Purpose community, is that you need to create accountability. You need to find a partner. You need to engage in community. You know, I'll talk about this a little later, but we do have our free weight loss masterclass that will show you how you can connect and get into community and all of that. But creating accountability is so, so important, because we weren't designed just to be hustling on our own. The accountability of others is actually a key component of our transformation, right? And another aspect as well is that we have to start taking our routine captive. They say take every thought captive. I want to just put a spin on that, is that we have to take our routine, our daily routine captive. We have to establish routine. Structure helps to solidify habits. And if your routine is all over the place, you get up this time, you go to bed that time, everything's up and down, it is difficult to create new healthy habits in chaos. And so establishing a routine, we talked about developing healthy, godly goals when it comes to your health, but part of that is structuring your routine so that you can fit in those healthy habits. Right? Another gem is this idea of cultivating resilience. Being able to get back up quickly when setbacks happen. That is the secret sauce to long-term sustainability in healthy living, is that when you have a setback, that you can jump back and bounce back quickly. The problem happens is that many of us go on this 21-day, I'm going to change my health. And then the minute a setback happens, we go right back to square one. And so developing and cultivating resiliency where we can bounce back faster and faster every time we have a setback is also a key. Another thing is celebrating small wins, recognizing and thanking God for the process. It's not always about, I can only celebrate when I lose the 60 pounds. No, you could celebrate when you lost 3. Right? So it's about being able to identify the small wins along the way and celebrating them and giving God the glory and saying, you know what, God, I'm better today than I was yesterday. And so, my hope is that you walk away with this idea that, do you believe that God will honor your commitment to your health? And I say yes. I mean, I know this from my own experience. Many of you have already heard my story. I won't go into it deeply today. But when I decided to not turn back from doing the Daniel fast, like for many of us that don't know, I actually started my health journey with the Daniel fast. And I had a decision to make after those 30 days. And because I had reversed my high blood pressure, I had lost all the weight, I had mental and spiritual clarity, my depression was gone. Everything just transformed for me. I still had a decision because technically I was only doing the Daniel fast with a friend for 30 days. And so in that moment, I had to decide, am I going to go forward and continue to honor God and reap more benefits? Or am I going to just go back to what I was doing before? And so that is the crossroads that many of you will get to, that even if you decide to do the Daniel fast for 21 days, many people have done it and got all the benefits and have gone back. And so I want to challenge you as we close out today, because it's all in the decision. It's all in the decision. Like I said, I had that decision to make at the end of the 30 days. The woman the woman with the issue of blood, she had a decision to make. Jesus was passing. She had a decision to make. Do I let him pass or do I just push through? And you have a decision to decide today as well. And so the question I want to leave you with is, what is one area of your health where you need to make a firm decision? Right? And I want you to identify that one thing, and then I want you to commit to it. I want you to write it down. I want you to pray over it and take a small step today. It could be anything, just a tiny step, but I want you to decide today, commit today, write it down, pray over it, and take a small step today. Right? Because what that's going to do, it's going to start to build the determination. It's going to help you to start to adopt a mindset of persistence and relying on God's strengths. These are all the nuggets of how to build a made-up mind when it comes to your health. And so we're not going to leave you hanging. If you need support, if you want to connect with us, we want to invite you to sign up for our free weight loss masterclass. I'll go ahead and put the link in the show notes, but go ahead, sign up. That is a decision that you could decide today. It's free. You could say, you know what? I need to lose weight. I need to get off of my blood pressure medication. I need to reverse my diabetes. I'm going to pray about this, but I'm going to take an action. I could just sign up for the free weight loss masterclass. That's a decision. That's a commitment. Right? So go ahead, sign up. We want to walk this journey with you. Gigi and I always say that, we are called to help the body of Christ, or we are called to help the body of Christ get healthy for the divine purpose. That is our passion. That is our mission. That is why we are here. And so if you need support, if you need community, I would suggest, jump in, right? And so thank you guys. I'm going to go ahead and close out, but thank you guys for tuning in. If this episode blessed you in any way, go ahead and share it with a friend, and let's keep building a community who are healthy for their divine purpose. Until next time, I'll see you later. Thank you for joining us on the Healthy for My Purpose podcast. We hope you enjoyed the community and are walking away empowered and encouraged to live your healthiest life for your God-ordained purpose. You can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram to enjoy fellowship with like-minded women. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this on iTunes. Until we meet again, keep honoring your body for your purpose. Want to lose weight? Comment yes, and we'll send you our free masterclass.